Hey everybody, welcome to a special air defense episode of Montgomery Focus. We're coming to you from the multiplex here at the Crampton Bowl, and this place is no stranger to high-flying action in the form of basketball, volleyball, heck, even horseshoes. But for this episode, we're going to focus on the highest flyer of them all, the most technologically advanced fighter jet in the history of aviation, the F-35. We're going to hear today from some of the people who helped make it possible for those jets to come here to Montgomery, even though they're still several years away, and then we'll also get into the cockpit. Well, the cockpit of a simulator. First, here's Griffith Waller with a look at this fabulous flying fighter.
Measuring about 35 feet from wingtip to wingtip, 51 feet in length, and boasting weapons prepared to fire 3,300 shots per minute, this Lockheed Martin manufactured modern marvel can reach a max speed of Mach 1.6, or roughly 1,200 miles per hour, which is like flying from Montgomery to Boston in less than an hour. The F-35 is the most advanced aircraft on the planet, thanks to its immense and unrivaled technological capabilities. It truly is the 21st century fighter. Known as a fifth-generation fighter, the F-35 Lightning II has excellent agility and maneuverability, superior stealth capability, and greater survivability for pilots.
Good morning. We're here today to welcome Lockheed Martin to Montgomery for this event, cockpit demonstration for the F-35. You all know that F-35 is extremely important to Montgomery and the river region. A lot of us here have been involved long and hard. Most everybody here, this whole community, came together and worked toward doing this. And it came down to it. It was the 187th, through their hard work, dedication, and professionalism that helped bring it here, along with our congressional delegation who we have here. That being said, I have the Vice President of Lockheed Martin, Mr. Steve Mueller, and he is going to say a few words, and then we're going to go through a few speakers. I'll be back up here in a minute. Steve?
Thank you, David. It's great to be here. I'm from Washington. I'm part of the government affairs team for Lockheed Martin, and it's a beautiful day here in Montgomery. It's great to come back here to visit, always for me, as I've been here multiple times in my other career in the Air Force. It's great to have all of you here, first off. We have been doing cockpit events now for about 8 years, and we go out on the road, and the goal is to be able to try and help tell people about the great capabilities of this plane that aren't often understood, and to get people to understand why this is a critical need for our nation. And so, coming from Washington, I know our representatives would say the first thing you're going to probably have to talk about is cost, because that's all you read about in the paper. And I'm going to say, I'm going to come to cost, but I'm going to talk about cost effectiveness. I'm going to do it last for just a minute. I want to sort of give you a quick update on where the program is, because of all the news, you don't often hear how great the program is progressing. And as I said earlier to some of the folks here, we have right now about 280 planes out in the field, and Lockheed plans to deliver 91 planes this year. And so very rapidly, when you start talking about when Danley gets their planes here in a few years, there'll be about 600 F-35s out in the field at that time, about 3 times the amount of the F-22s that are out there. But the program had a really large milestone that they passed here last month, and I don't think everybody realized that. It was the end of the development phase. And this is where the program comes out of development and said, okay, you're ready to move forward and continue to progress. But that program was the most tested program in the history of the Department of Defense. The airplanes flew about 130,000 hours, 9,200 flights, and had about 65,000 test points that it passed. And of course, it took a few years to do that, but that's a significant milestone, and essentially proves that the airplane is meeting all of the demanding requirements that it can do for performance. And so that performance is the other part of the plane, is that we see as the pilots love this plane. And they love this plane because it keeps them alive, and It makes them very, very lethal in a demanding environment. And so that's what our nation is paying for. That's what our nation needs, and that's one of the things I bring up a little story. I said this before, is cost is really about what you get for it. You know, something is only unaffordable if you don't get capability for what you're buying. Whether it's a vacuum cleaner or a car, you want to feel good about what you bought. And I'll tell you that the cost of the F-35 for the capability it brings is cheap. And I say that because our Air Force, our Navy, our Marine Corps, particularly the Air Force, is flying some of the oldest planes that we've ever had in our history. They're 28 years old on an average, and I put that in perspective as I say, for 28 years, well, 38 years ago, I started flying an F-16, and right now my son flies an F-16, and about 2 months ago I just had a brand new grandson born, and at the rate he's going to fly an F-16. And I would say sending him to combat in an F-16 in 20 years is what's unaffordable. That's what's unaffordable, because that is where he's probably not going to survive. And so I put that in context of people that don't fly every day, and you say, many of you probably have teenage daughters. Martha Roby's daughter's 13, probably a couple years away from driving, right, Martha? So today's her birthday, so happy birthday to Representative Roby there. So, but if you think about that, would you send your teenage son, daughter, driving to the grocery store in a 1970s car? Seatbelts optional, no airbags, no side panel, no backup camera. None. You wouldn't do that. So the question is, do you want to send your sons and daughters to combat in the same thing that old? And I'd say the answer is you don't. So what we have today is we're just trying to give you an exposure to some of that great capability that you see with the simulator. And we'll do our best to get as many people through that as we can, and we'll stay here until we can get everybody through. So I just want to thank you again for coming out here and appreciate your support. This is the reason Danley Field gets F-35 is you have a tremendous community here that supports you. And there's no doubt about that. So it's very fun to come to a very favorable audience, unlike some of the ones in D.C. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dave.
Thank you, Steve. My parents put me out in 1959 Etzel. But it was pretty new back then. We had tremendous work done by our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C., working toward the F-35 and supporting the program, not just Montgomery getting an F-35, but supporting the program for the Air Force and the Marines and the Navy to have the F-35. And they're staunch supporters of our military. And we want to welcome first Martha, and then we'll hear from Terry Sewell in just a moment. But Martha, if you would. Congressman Roby, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness, it is truly, truly an honor to be here today. I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming out to view the F-35 cockpit demonstrator and to learn more about this program that will play a critical role in providing our military with the tools that it needs to keep our great nation safe. Not only is the state of Alabama home to 13 F-35 supplier locations, but as you all know well, the River Region's very own 187th Fighter Wing will soon deploy this very important mission for the Air National Guard. A lot of people here today, as I look out into the crowd, a lot of people here today worked so hard to make this happen. So I want to begin by thanking the F-35 industry team, the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce, and of course, Steve Mueller and the Lockheed Martin team, my friend Chris Peace. Thank you so much, all of you, for bringing this here today. This event here today is just another example of how our community has come together to support the 187th as we work to ensure that there was no stone left unturned during the selection process. From working with our entire congressional delegation, including my colleague, Senator Shelby, who unfortunately is not here today, but Katie Britt is here. Katie, stand and wave to everybody. Thank you for being here. And of course, my very good friend and colleague, Terry Sewell, to partnering with our state and local leaders. We truly showed the Air Force all that the River Region has to offer. So today, I'm so thrilled that our community will get to see firsthand. I got my wings yesterday, just want you to know. Barely landed on the aircraft carrier. I had some help. But what the 187th will soon be flying, and what we here at home like to call the sound of freedom roaring over our skies. I know I'm speaking to the choir here today, but the F35 coming to the 187th is truly, truly a huge deal. And you're right, we do support the program. I am so grateful to have a much coveted seat on the Subcommittee of Defense, on the Committee on Appropriations, but having this very critical mission right here in our backyard is tremendous. So while a lot of work took place behind the scenes to make this dream come true for the 187th and for our city and the River Region and our state, at the end of the day, it is the men and women of the 187th that made the case for bringing this mission here. And so please help me celebrate the uniqueness, the capability, the professionalism of the men and women of the 187th. I'll never be able to thank you enough for giving me the resources that I needed to make the case to the decision makers time and time again in the final days leading up to this decision. So please pass along, as always, my gratefulness to those who came before and those that will come after. This mission is going to have a tremendous boost in effect for many years to come. It is projected that this could result in 1,000 additional jobs, $3 billion in capital investment, and I believe that that is just the beginning. So a huge thank you to Lockheed Martin, a huge thank you to everyone who's present here today. We have so much to be proud of in this great state, and today is an opportunity to celebrate that. So God bless you, God bless this great country.
Thank you, Congressman Roby. I would now like to introduce our congressional member on the other side of the aisle, but working hand in hand together to make things happen in Washington for Alabama and for Montgomery region, Congressman Terry Sewell.
Good morning, everyone. And what a great morning it is to be in the River Region and to be here in Montgomery and to be celebrating the 187th Air National Guard and the wonderful new aircraft that we will be getting, the F-35. As Martha said, this is truly a shared victory. All of us should be very proud of our role, and everyone here played a critical role in making sure that those decision makers knew what was at stake and what we in the River Region had to offer. And that is something that all of us should take great pride in. I know that Martha and I and Senator Shelby could not have done what we did without our staff. I want to give a round of applause to our staff for working so hard on representing us. Katie, please make sure that Senator Shelby knows that this was truly not only a victory for our congressional delegation, but for our whole state, and we could not have done it without the support of this community. And when I think about what our greatest asset is, it is our people. It is our people. I want to thank Steve and those at Lockheed Martin. Lorenzo has my portfolio back in Washington. Please tell him I said hello. He and I work together on a lot of the intel issues. So I want to say thank you to Lockheed Martin for bringing this demonstration here. You know, bringing the F-35 to Montgomery, not only was it an incredible feat, but it was also something that will ensure the legacy of the 187th. And the F-35 will not only provide a major economic boost for our economy, it will also help to secure the future for the 100th Fighter Squadron and the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen for generations to come. This extraordinary unit, the 187th, carries the legacy of our nation's first African-American military pilots. The military had for many years deemed African-American pilots unfit to fly, but it was the Tuskegee Airmen who provided them the proof that they were wrong. Known as the Red Tails for the red paint on the tails of their planes, the Tuskegee Airmen didn't lose a single aircraft against enemy fighters in over 200 World War II bombing missions. The Tuskegee Airmen made our state proud, and because of the F-35, their legacy will be preserved here in Alabama for future generations. I want to thank the 100th Squadron as well as 187th for making sure that that legacy lives on. It is something all of us should be proud about. So in addition to preserving the legacy, the F-35 is shaping our state's future for ensuring that both Montgomery and Birmingham Air National Guard units as well as their associated units throughout the state, remain active for the next 50 years. As a result of the decision, the city of Montgomery and the River Region will receive approximately $3 billion in new capital improvements and capital investments, and $70 million in new construction, helping to protect 4,000 jobs and create an additional 1,000 quality jobs over the next few years. Now that the F-35 has found its home in Montgomery, more suppliers have the opportunity to operate in Alabama. And I must tell you that the 7th Congressional District is open for business all throughout the Black Belt and Birmingham, as well as the River Region. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. And I hope we all take a huge amount of pride in this shared victory for our community. We've seen military, we've seen government, we've seen community band together to make this a reality. And I know that we will be forever stronger and strengthened by the partnership that we endured in competing for this great honor. Thank you again for allowing me to be here, and may the 187th long live and last. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman Sewell. Well, you know, we're all happy and giddy and dancing around about having the F-35 coming to Montgomery, but it all gets down to somebody has actually got to do the work. And the next person I'm going to introduce is responsible for getting the work done to get the F-35 bedded down and have the Danley field ready to go. And we start flying those things in less than 5 years, I hope. And this is Colonel Will Sparrow. Colonel Sparrow, I first came to an airport authority board meeting maybe 4 years ago, and mentioned that there was a possibility that the F-35 might go to some guard units, and we ought to start looking at ways to make Montgomery attractive. And so it was Colonel Will Sparrow where I first heard that news, and so he is here, and now he's responsible for getting it done. Colonel Sparrow.
Well, it's been a great 4 years, that's for sure. You can imagine from our perspective, the 187th Fighter Wing is simply ecstatic to be named for getting the F-35. And our airmen are so pumped up and honored to be selected. I don't even have words for it, but it's just so gratifying. And what makes it really gratifying, it's been mentioned several times, is the people in this region, the city of Montgomery, the whole River Region, the state of Alabama. These are some people that love the sound of freedom and that jet noise. I think they're as excited as we are, you know, for us to get the F-35. They're always asking about, are we going to be able to paint the tail of the F-35 red, and we're working on that. It's a secret program we haven't told you about yet, Mr. Mueller. But the folks far and wide are just so excited, and it makes it such a pleasure from our perspective to serve in an area where that is the attitude. It's just an absolute honor, and keeping the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen alive means a lot to us, and we wear this 100 Fighter Squadron original Tuskegee Airmen patch with such pride and always try to live up to that. So we're excited. I know Colonel Casey has been rummaging around downstairs looking for some wings and a motor to strap onto this. He's ready to fly it, but we can't wait to get going. And 5 years is too long. We can move it up. We're ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Sparrow. And you know, we always talk about community effort, and we sounds like we're having a big kumbaya moment here, and we are. And one of the key partnerships we have is our Montgomery city and county governments. We have people here representing the county government and the city government, and it's a partnership that's kind of unlike anywhere else you see. They work together on every single good thing that happens to Montgomery. If a few bad things happen to Montgomery, it's not their fault. So to start out with, I'd like to introduce Council President Charles Jenwright. Charles, come on up and give a few words. We're gonna bring them up together.
Todd would be upset if I spoke without having Elton at my side, because he always has Elton with him. But this is a great day. This is the start of something really big. This is the first visual we've really gotten of what we really landed. But Colonel Sparrow, you know, the work you got ahead of you is just a token of what you did to get us here. I mean, the work that the 187 did, and what the city and all the city leaders did, the county leaders, federal representation, all that people, all the work that was done so professionally to get this program here is just wonderful to see it all come together like it did. I can't imagine what's going to happen in the future years as this comes to pass. You know, this is the beginning of something really, really great. 50 years from now, they'll look back and say, how did you get it done? But the people in this room, the people that worked through the 187th, and all the other folks that work with the chamber, David, all of them, and Elton, you know, city county, we get a lot of opportunities to work together, and it makes you feel good when people compliment us for working together and being together, because a lot of places in the state of Alabama, that ain't the case. But we have that on an ongoing basis. So I just want to thank the people here, River Region, for what the mayor and the city council have all along wanted to see happen, but didn't know what was going to happen. But when you get everybody to come together as a team, great things happen. And today is the beginning of a great thing for the city and the county and the River Region. So thank y'all for being here. Thank you for doing it.
What a great day to be in Montgomery, Alabama. I had the privilege this morning at National Prayer to pray for the military. So how coincidental that is that we are here this morning celebrating the F-35. I don't want to go on and not for you to see our team. And when I say our team, Charlie, my team, the city council and the commissioners, will you all stand? Yeah. You know, Charlie and the mayor and I and the commission, we tell people all the time that we're not going to fuss over whether we spend $70 or county dollars, because it's all, we don't have two different taxpayers. We have one taxpayer, so it's all taxpayers' dollars. So when we had to embark upon this particular mission, it was really a no-brainer. I mean, everybody got a chance to raise the right hand and the left hand. I just asked them to raise the right hand, but they raised the right and the left hand. So it just gives us great honor to be a part of this. And like Charlie said, we work together all the time. It makes it makes sense for us to work together all the time. We are privileged to have somebody in our order, and we took Leslie Sanders 101, because of course 101, Leslie, where you stand, Leslie kind of led this charge. Is Hankins here? Is Hankins here? Okay, well, this is what we do. We sit on the podium and raise our hand, but we have people like Leslie Sanders and Tom Hankins that's a part of our community that has that expertise that can get people to raise their hand and do things. So, because we are not the smart ones, they're the smart ones. They're the ones that put us in office. So we want to make sure that we give them a job to do. And Leslie and Tom Hankins, they did a fine job. And Tom being a former military person, we are privileged to have Maxwell and Gunner and Danley here in Montgomery, Alabama. You know, because a lot of people that come here is military, they reside here, they stay here, they want to retire here. And if we got anybody that's from Lockheed that want to move to Montgomery, we want you here in Montgomery because you could be a part of a winning team. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean, Councilman Jenwright. We want to particularly thank Martin Marietta for having this event today. It's important to know our partners, and I spent a little time going through your website, and it's incredible the things that Lockheed Martin is doing. And y'all all know a lot of you may not know there's a giant plant that Lockheed Martin operates in Troy, Alabama, 3,600 acres down there. And so they're close by, they're neighbors, they work around us, they're great corporate partners. Biggest defense contractor in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to thank y'all again for the event. And we wanted to have the simulator over here, and I want to invite the congressman to fly first, and then we'll all jockey up and get in line. By the way, my first flight on the thing, I landed on an aircraft carrier, relatively unassisted, right after a retired Air Force crashed into the bow. So so I was rather proud, but y'all enjoy the rest of the day, and thank y'all for being here.
Okay, everyone, we've heard enough of the people at the podium. Now it's time to get behind the controls of the simulator. We've got Adrian Clark with us. And Adrian, you are a retired military pilot that had actual combat experience. Tell us about your background serving the United States.
So I went to the academy when I was 17. I graduated when I was 21, and I flew for a lot of years in the Air Force. I flew in the F-15E, had a couple of tours over in Afghanistan, went to Iraq, got to do a bunch of cool things, but just retired last summer, started working at Lockheed, and I'm helping people understand the F-35 capabilities.
How many hours were you in the cockpit of an F-15, and then how many hours of combat flying did you do?
So I had about 1,700 hours in the F-15E, and I've got about 500 hours in combat flying over, helping out the Army guys on the ground in Afghanistan.
Did it ever get old, or every time you fired up the engines, it was just magical?
It's honestly the most amazing job. Growing up, I always wanted to fly. You kind of think, well, that's an impossible dream, but I was fortunate enough to go to the academy and get to fly. But it never got old, and that's why I retired, and I'm still doing stuff that's related to this because I love that job. It's just fantastic.
How advanced is the F-35 compared to the F-15s you flew, the F-16s that are out at the 187th, and the F-22s that we see from time to time here at Danley Field as well?
So this is one of the things that I think it's just so important for people to understand. I love the F-15. It's the most amazing aircraft ever. I can't say enough good things about it. At the same time, whenever I flew against F-22s, we would do our practice fights, and the normal way to do this is we set up about 100 miles away from each other, and we call fights on, and I can see them on my radar, I know what's going on, and then we do whatever we need to do to get to the place where we can shoot our missiles. What happens when you fight against an F-22 or an F-35, you get out there and a lot of times what the F-22s would do is they say the fight's going to start at a certain time. You won't hear anything on the radio.
Sorry, the fight or the flight?
The fight.
The fight. Okay.
Our simulated fight,
Sure,
right?
sure.
It's going to start at a certain time. And we get out there, and I'm like, I don't see anybody. I wonder, did they even take off? I don't know where they're at. I don't know what's going on. But we better start. We do what we're supposed to. We start heading, north or whatever, towards where we're supposed to be. And it's just like, wow. It feels like there's no fight going on. There's nobody here. I can't see anything, nothing going on. And then you get a radio call. Eagle 1 is dead. Eagle 2 is dead. I'm like, well, I'm Eagle 3. What's going to happen to me? Eagle 3, you're dead. Well, this was a dumb fight. What happened? And you have no chance. Even in the best F-15 in the world, I could be the best F-15 pilot in the world. If I don't see anybody, how do I fight them? What is the strategy? And that's what stealth means, It means that the fight is on uneven terms, and until somebody comes up with some solution for that, it's an advantage that's impossible to overcome.
But now, if I'm in the plane that's fighting the F-35, when the missile or something is coming at me, doesn't my plane start doing anti-defense moves or something? I mean, the controls leave me, and it throws out flares or something.
Well, let's talk about that. So
Sure.
Trying to dodge a missile is potentially the most challenging thing in the world.
I'll bet.
There's a whole, and flying an F-15 forever, we practiced doing stuff like that. We talked about it, but we don't shoot an actual missile at the plane and try and dodge it, because that's super dangerous, right? So what are the challenges? One of them, do you know that a missile's been launched against you? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. If a radar is locked on, then you could have a radar detector that would detect it, and okay, somebody's looking at me, somebody's launching against me. But if you just try to see it in the air, you're looking at something that's this thin, pointed straight at you, and how far away can you see something like that? It's hard to see an F-16 sometimes at a mile. Sure. A missile smaller than that. And if it's coming at Mach 3, you're going to look around and see it and then dodge it. The odds are really stacked against you. So this is where the F-35 has this amazing system on it. It's got surrounded by cameras, and they're infrared seeking cameras. So they're looking all around us for anything hot. And we'll show you in the simulator when we get going here how it tracks those missiles. But it can detect missiles going away from us, but missiles coming towards us too. And you can't do that.
Those are the ones I care about the most, I'll bet.
Right. And you can't do it without these advanced systems. So it's just a generational step forward. So we talked about stealth, but you also have to talk about sensor fusion, how we've got cameras all around the aircraft blended together, figuring out, there's a hot spot there, and there. Which one is actually tracking on me? Which one's an actual missile versus something on the ground? We can figure all that out, sort out that information, present it to me so that I say, there is a missile headed towards me. Now I can turn around and evade that missile or dump out flares, whatever it takes to defeat that missile. I can try to do those things. But the real advantage is I don't put myself in that situation. I'm aware of all of who's out there, where their radars are, what they're doing, and I avoid a situation that's going to put me in danger. So I fight every fight on uneven terms because I take advantage of all the information I have and they don't have.
Wow. Now it looks like from this simulator that we're on an aircraft carrier, so the F-35 obviously can take off from land, like it will here in Montgomery, but also from sea.
Right, so there's an A, B, and C version. The A is for the Air Force, the B is what the Marines are using, and that's the vertical takeoff mode. And the C...
vertical, so it doesn't need a runway, it can just...
Right, and I should have said vertical takeoff. They do a short takeoff, and they do a vertical landing just because of fuel weight.
Man.
But the version that we're just playing with today, so I can show you all these capabilities, is the C model.
Sure.
And we'll just take off from the carrier and see what that looks like, and I'll show you some of the sensors if that's okay.
Okay, give me a call name. I want to be something pertaining to Eagle because that's my favorite football team.
All right.
I'm the
Philly 1.
Philly 1, yes.
All right, so we're going to be Philly 1, and Philly 1, you're going to be cleared for takeoff. Put your hand on the stick.
Okay.
And I'm going to just adjust it.
Oh,
that
there we go.
feel comfortable. And on the throttle over there. Let me get you familiar with this. I want you to know how it feels. So push it all the way forward.
Okay.
Right, that bump right there is the afterburner separation.
Oh, wow.
But you'll have to push right through that.
Sure.
So bring it all the way back. And now when we start the simulation, here's what's going to happen. We're going to put it to full afterburner.
Sure.
And we're going to be thrown off the front of the carrier.
Okay.
And we'll be going about 150 miles an hour by the time we hit there. You'll gently pull back on the stick, pull us away from the ground. And then once we're safely flying, you'll raise up the gear, the landing gear right there.
How long does it take to go from 0 to 150?
You're about to find out.
I'm about to find out.
Push that throttle all the way forward.
All the way through.
Gently back on the stick. Now you're going over 150.
Okay.
You're flying safely away from the ground. I'm going to adjust your nose so we're not going straight up.
Sure.
Now you're 20 degrees nose high, climbing up at 170 knots, safe airspeed. Let's go ahead and raise that gear up.
All right, my gear is up.
Perfect.
I'm streamlined and aerodynamic.
And ready to go fast. Let's get a feel for the controls.
Sure.
All right. So what I want you to do, let me show you how I do a roll. Just push that stick over like that. You can do the same thing. So let's see.
Can you do that in real speed? Is that
Absolutely,
quickly?
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
let's see you do the same thing. All the way to the left.
Oh, all the way to the left.
Right.
Okay, all right. I've rolled and
You're the
rolled.
pilot. I'm not trying
It
to
just
boss
chirped
you.
at me. I'm not level.
So
Okay.
now you're 25 degrees nose high, straight and level.
Sure.
And let's try a roll to the right.
To the right.
All the way over. You can be more aggressive with it. All right. And now we're going to try a big loop. So what I want you to do is just pull straight back on the stick. We're at 12,000 feet, so we're at a safe altitude. Just pull straight back, straight back, straight back. Now we're looking straight
Oh, I'm rolling
up.
in straight.
Keep on pulling, keep on pulling.
Oh,
Now we're
wow.
pointed back. There's the carrier we took off from.
Sure.
Keep on pulling. Now we're pointed straight down, so keep on pulling.
Yeah,
forget
don't want to go
pull.
straight down.
Pull,
And is that
pull.
my altitude at 15,000, 14,000?
Exactly.
Okay, now.
We're recovering just a little bit above where we started that loop.
Sure.
Now you can just fly straight and level.
Okay.
Now what I want to show you is how all the sensors work together.
Am I still on the afterburners or?
You can save a little bit of gas. Why don't you
okay,
pull it back
let's-
to what we call mill power, just out of afterburner.
Okay, there we go.
And so this tells us we're in afterburner still, so just pull it back a little bit more, a little bit more.
Oh,
Perfect.
okay.
All right, so that's mill power. That's like max power without afterburner.
I'm excited, and I'm still at sea level. That's okay.
You're not at sea level. You're at 18,000
Well, I'm at
feet.
18,000 feet, but in yes, you're
I'm with
right.
you. I'm with you.
Okay.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and use some of the sensors to just see how everything works together.
Sure.
We're going to go after a boat. There's a boat right here.
That triangle right there.
That triangle
Okay.
right there. So think of this is your cursor, and if you put your thumb on this switch right here,
Okay.
you can move it and think of that as your mouse. So move it on top of that triangle.
Oh, wait a second. What am I doing? Wait, these two lines
Yep,
there.
there's two
okay.
bars.
All right.
Just move them over there.
All right. There we go. I've got the boat.
All right. And we're slowing down.
And I'm slowing
All
down
right,
too
that's
much.
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay. All right. So now you're on top of that. Now this is your target management switch. Push
Okay.
it forward, click it and release it, and do it one more time. All right. So that made it a target. I'm just going to adjust your scopes here
Sure.
really quick. All right, so that made it a target. It's a triangle out there, and we know that's our enemy boat, but we're not 100% sure. We want to double check. We've got a giant camera in the nose.
We don't want friendly fire to sink
Exactly.
an American or a friendly vessel.
Right.
Okay.
So we look through this and say, oh, that's definitely an enemy boat. That's where we want to go. We want to go after that guy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure our weapons are ready to go.
Now, while pilots are doing all of this, is the plane somewhat flying itself, or I've got to be
Well,
looking
that's a
at my
good
speed,
question.
my level, my roll, and do the weapon system?
So this thing has the most amazing autopilot system where everything flies almost automatically. You can set it up to maintain your altitude, your
Sure.
airspeed, and just do everything for you.
Okay.
So a lot of that stuff can happen automatically, but what they've really tried to do is set this aircraft up so that a lot of that stuff happens so simply and easily that it's one of the easiest planes to teach people how to fly.
Sure.
And then they can concentrate on using it as a weapon system.
Gotcha.
They don't have to maintain all that basic stuff. So let me show you how some of this stuff works together.
Sure.
Here, keep your hand on the stick.
I'm on the
and
stick.
What I want you to do is just kind of point towards this. And what we see out in front of us is target number 1 is 31 miles away.
Sure.
Now this used to be projected on a glass screen right here,
Right.
the HUD. And this is fake right here. What you would actually see is it would be inside your helmet.
On the visor itself.
Right,
or
all of that is projected inside there. And what's amazing is if this thing was behind you or to the left, you just have a pointer in here, and it tells you, hey, 50 degrees left, and you just turn your head, and it will tell you where to look to see the target, whatever you're looking for. So it makes it very easy to look around and know where everybody's at and know what's going on.
Sure.
So now I'm going to show you what it takes to get a weapon off the aircraft. So we're headed towards that triangle. We saw it out the window. We know it's 15 degrees down in front of us, and we have to drive into this green shape right here.
Sure.
So that's a few
I'm
miles
sorry, I
in
have to
front of
drive
us.
into the green
The
shape.
green shape,
That
and that
polygon
will put
right
us
there.
in range.
Okay.
Exactly. That will put us in range to drop our weapons. I'm going to fast forward just
Yeah.
a little bit. All right. And now, again, that target is just below the nose here, and we're gonna see it says in range right here. So we're in range to drop our weapons. So again, we've got our camera, we've looked at it on our scope, we've got everything double checked, we've got our weapons ready. So let's go ahead and push the red button and deliver the first weapon.
You're toast.
All right, and since we just have this one target, we're going to drop both weapons. So you see the doors opening, and everything's carried internally because a big bomb, a 2,000-pound bomb on the outside of my jet, has a huge radar reflection. So we carry everything internally so the enemies can't see those.
And so we care about the radar reflection more than the drag of...
all of those things make a difference. All right, so we are going to adjust our flight path a little bit so that we can hopefully see this.
Good, because
bomb.
I have flown us someplace far, far away.
All right, we may be able to see this bomb impact the target. This is the
That's the boat, way down there.
Yeah, and we've got, we dropped it at max range, so we still have 35 seconds before this bomb hits the target.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to fly us so that that thing is still in view whenever the time elapses so we can see the bomb impact.
And now for me to be close enough to hit the target, does that mean that I can be hit by the target's weapons, or I'm so safe?
Well, that's the game that we're playing, right?
Yes.
We're trying to be at a range where he can't see us and we can see him. And
I like that.
Let's see, how many seconds? Do you see it? You see the impact right here?
Oh wow, yeah, yes indeed.
All right, so our
and
bomb.
now we've hightailed it away.
Yes. Oh, we gotta move it up.
All right.
All right. So.
Now you just land us, and we'll be, or we can call it a day. But.
All right. Do I have time to land?
What's that? We need to get a few more.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no thanks. What was your rank?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel, yeah. Thank you so very much, and we're really, really grateful that this is going to be here, and thank you for your service to the country.
Thanks.
Steve, tell us about the F-35. I mean, this is, we're calling it the most technologically advanced fighter jet in the history of aviation. Are we overselling it, or that hits the nail on the head?
Oh, I think that hits the nail on the head, Mike, is that this plane is one that was designed to be survivable and lethal 20 to 30 years from now. And so it's advanced beyond anything we've ever built in the United States or anywhere else in the world.
We were talking to Colonel Clark while we were in the cockpit of the simulator, and he was relaying how during dogfights, simulated dogfights for training missions, in his F-15s, he was just killed without even knowing that there was an F-35 in the area.
Yeah, that's one of the, so often the plane is talked about its stealth capability.
Right.
And so I gave you the terms that survivable and lethal, and survivable has a lot of things involved with it. What makes something survivable? One of those is stealth. And when I try to explain stealth to the average person, I say, what it does is, most stealth means is you are not invisible, but very, very close to invisible to radars. And that comes with the design and the technology that's inherent in the plane.
Tell us about how long it takes to make one of these planes. You spoke from the podium about the size of the American fleet. Is it at 200 right now, and it's going to soon be 600 at some point in the future?
So it's at 280 right now, and as I mentioned, we're going to deliver about 91 planes this year. So you can see very rapidly, and 135 next year. So in 2 years, you essentially double the fleet.
Right.
And it'll keep growing, over 130 planes, and that's worldwide planes for all the countries and for the 3 services, so not just the Air Force version of that. But the program is really accelerating right now. Often I mentioned at the podium that we've completed the test program, what's called System Design and Development. And that's really a marker point that you say we're tested not just the airplane, but all the components in the airplane, all those 1,400 suppliers, and made sure the quality of each of those meets the specifications. And so when you can say that you've achieved that, now you have a plane that's very reliable in terms of your build, and the quality is at the best point it's at.
You mentioned suppliers, and Congresswoman Roby mentioned that there are some F-35 suppliers here in the river region.
Right.
You know, when I talk about this plane, it's a globally built plane, but there's suppliers across 45 of the states that are here.
Wow.
And Alabama actually obviously has a big contingent of those suppliers, as she said. And so it's sort of that trickle-down economy that goes with the plane. Not only do you have the infusion of resources into the river region from bringing the planes here, but that also makes your suppliers thrive as well. And so those local companies start to do well on top of that.
What's the price tag per plane? And then you also mentioned that it might sound like a big number, but when you contemplate its purpose and contrast it with what would be flown by our service personnel without that plane, it's very affordable, especially in the measurement of lives.
So I believe the plane is unbelievably affordable, and of course affordability is up to the eye of the beholder. The plane right now is we're targeting a purchase price of $80 million by 2020, and so each airplane and each lot, we're working on how to make those airplanes cheaper, and we think we can easily get to this $80 million price. You have to put that in perspective. You said cost. I like to use cost effectiveness. What do you get for $80 million? And you essentially get the ability for your military to survive because you provide them a platform that gives them the lethalities that's needed and the survivability to keep the pilots alive. And those missions help your ground forces, help your Navy forces, help your Marine forces stay alive as well. And so that's what you're getting. You're getting defense of the nation at $80 million. So I think very cost effective. And just sort of put it in perspective, and I mentioned this earlier, is that if you were to go buy a new F-16 off the assembly line, it's close to $80 million.
Oh, really?
And so the point is, you can have one an F-16, which is 1980s technology, for $80 million, or you're going to have an F-35, which is the latest and greatest plane, for $80 million. And so that's what I mean by cost effectiveness. If you were to take any of the previous planes and sort of just inflated the money that we spent for them, that would be the price range they were at.
How long will the F-35 be the primary fighter weapon for the military?
So I think you'll see the F-35 flying at least for the next 40 years. And part of it is, the unique part of this design is some people kind of call it the flying computer, but it's an upgradable computer. And so what you see is that it's designed to be able to meet threats in 2025 and 2030, and as those threats evolve, the plane is designed to be able to evolve with those threats and stay ahead of them. And that's part of the key to this technology, is not building something that becomes obsolete in 10 years.
Well, General Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge of the F-35, and thank you for building them for our warfighters.
Oh, no, thank you guys for the tremendous support from the River region and Montgomery in general. Thank you.
And if you need to build a manufacturing facility anywhere in Montgomery, Alabama, we will be glad to have you here.
Well, we mentioned from Lockheed, we have the Troy facility down there, which is
that's way too far.
Too far away. Okay, okay.
No, thank you very much for what you do.
Great, thank you.
For your service to our country as well.
Thanks, Mike. Nice to see you.
Pleasure's ours. Congresswoman Sewell, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
More importantly, thank you for the hard work you did to make the F-35 a reality for the 187th.
Isn't that awesome?
We're so
excited. You know, the 187th is home base is Danley Field, which is in my district.
In your district.
7th Congressional District. So this has really been a shared victory. I want to really thank Martha Roby and Senator Shelby and the congressional delegation. But, you know, the real applause should go to the community of Montgomery and River Region for all that they did in making sure and reinforcing what we've been saying up in Washington, that the River Region was ready, Montgomery was ready, and that no better place for the F-35 than to have it at the 187th.
I definitely agree with you, but there were I guess 4 other military bases that were also
competing.
And the competition was stiff.
Very much so.
Is there anything you can share with us about what happened in the halls of Congress and the Pentagon to help ensure that the correct decision was made as it was back in December?
Well, as I would say, as I sit on the House Intelligence Committee, and as they say, if I told you everything I know, I'd have to kill you.
You'd have to kill me.
But no, I think that what really made really made a big difference was that all of us were singing from the same hymn book. Even if we said it in different ways, whether we were Republicans or Democrats, and under both administrations, this competition was happening. So, you know, under the Obama administration as well as under the Trump administration. It was announced under the Trump administration, but this has been a multi-year effort. And so I think that what really made the 187th stand out was the combined effort of community as well as local government and the military. So it was really a combined effort, and everyone was saying the same thing. And while it was more organic, less organized, I think that made it more authentic. That everyone was saying the same stuff. And so when the chairwoman of the Air Force came down to Montgomery, you know, she talked to me, she talked to Martha, we were both saying the same thing, and so by the time, you know, she came back from the visit, she was like, everything you said was right. I was like, exactly, you know. So we just I think all of us deserve a round of applause. This was definitely a community effort.
Yes, indeed. You have been taken on a guest flight in one of the F-16s out.
Yes.
How was that?
That was really exciting. He was a colonel then, Efferson. Now he's General Efferson. But he was my pilot that took me out on the F-16. I just finished an F-35 simulated flight. And I have to tell you, I was scared. I thought that I would just dress up in the gear and have a Tom Cruise Top Gun moment.
Top Gun moment,
yeah.
of course.
But when they were like, ready to go up? I'm like, ready to go up? No, it was exciting. Look, I think that the fact that we now have the F-35s will ensure that Danley Field, 187th, will continue for generations to come to be a part of the military strategy, our national security strategy, and I think that that's really great. It not only helps economically boost Montgomery and the River region, but it is such a source of pride that the 187th has really taken on the armor of the Red Tails and the legacy of Tuskegee Airmen. You know, that's such a rich part of the history of Alabama, a very proud part of that history. Indeed. And the fact that 187th, we wear that patch proudly, and they have their fighter jets with the red tails is really important. So we're working on Lockheed Martin now and the Air Force to try to get the red tails on the F-35s as well.
Would it compromise the stealth capabilities?
I think that's what the engineers and all of those guys are figuring out right now. So needless to say, we've put in the ask, and we're hoping that we can make that a reality.
There's some engineers smart enough to have some red paint that is radar invisible, okay? Yeah, so we just need to find that right combination.
Absolutely. But I really think that the fact that the history that lives in the 187th, the legacy that is important to keep carrying on, also played an invaluable part in us winning this bid for the F-35. And I just am so proud of the 187th keeping that legacy alive. And they've recently set up a scholarship program that's doing really well. I look forward to helping in my office to continue to grow that program. I think getting the next generation of pilots, making sure that we have a diversity of those pilots, and the racial, ethnic diversity, regional diversity is really important. And if the Red Tail program can help create the next generation of black pilots, that would be awesome.
Well, if you can relax the age requirement, I will get the surgery done so that I can get in behind the cockpit. But,
you and me both.
Yeah, but probably best that I'm not there. Congresswoman, thank you so very, very much for what you do for the 7th Congressional District, what you do for the River Region up in Washington, D.C. and here in your district, and keep up the great job.
Well, thank you. You know, I think that Congresswoman Martha Roby and I made a dynamic duo team.
You are dynamic.
And the fact is that Alabama didn't have any congresswomen that were elected in their own right, and in one night they got two folks, both of whom are not shy to advocate and fight for the folks of our region.
We've noticed that about you two, and we love that about you too as well.
I think finally the Air Force said, I give, we'll give them the F-35.
Good deal.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and keep up the great job.
Absolutely. Thanks.
We want to send a huge thank you to everyone who worked so hard to bring the F-35 here to Montgomery, especially the brave women and men of the 187th Fighter Wing of the Alabama Air National Guard. And hey, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Montgomery Focus. Until next time, have a great Montgomery day.